This is Professor Homa, and we're moving along with path practice, and I'll just review doing the glass and B. You're seeing both of the images right now, and these are on a separate layer, just so you know. They're on a separate trace layer where they're kind of grayed out, so we're going to be working on a working layer so we don't affect anything underneath, so we'll be drawing on top of this. So now this one does not have little points like fish trace had, so we don't know where to put the anchor points, but I'm going to try to guide you through that a little bit to get the feel of it when you start to trace other objects. So I'm going to take my zoom tool and zoom into the glass right now and move it a little closer to my tool. So I'm going to trace over this. I'm going to put my anchor points down first, and then I'm going to do some converts. Now, before I even start, again, I'll make my fill of none, and I'll put a stroke of, I'll just use blue, something different. But in terms of anchor points, I'm planning to put one here and here because that's a straight line segment. And if you look at this curve, it's an S curve, but it gets very sharp at the bottom. I'm probably going to put an additional anchor point right here and then have one at the intersection. And then all the other intersections is where points will be. But with this long curve here, that's a lot to control with just two handles. So I'm going to put an extra one maybe down here, so we have a line segment that's an S curve and then just another little arch at the bottom. So I'm going to start tracing this. I'll start with the straight line first, the easiest part, with the pen tool. And I'll just click to make my first anchor point, click to make my second anchor point, and I'll come down here to make my third. And my other one is going to be symmetrical to that, but right now I'll just put one at the intersection of the bowl of the wine glass and the stem, and then down by where the stem ends and the foot starts, and I'll click, and I'll just just straight line segments here. They don't have to be perfect. I can move them later, and again, same place on this side, and another anchor point here. And to close this off, I'll look for the little circle and I'll finish it there. So there's my shape, and now I'm going to do some converts. And I'll start at the top. I'll kind of drag this direction, kind of make an S curve. Now when I do that, I'll scroll a little bit. I'll drag the other handle in so that stays straight. So there's kind of my dip in, and then I'll go to this and I'll drag to kind of get that going out. So it's creating that S curve here. I have a little too much handle here, so I'll have to fix this a little bit when I go around. But for now, I'll do all my converts. So down here, I'm gonna just drag and get this area that kind of bows in a little bit, and then take the other handle and drag it in. And I'm maybe gonna zoom into this even closer so that you can see what I'm doing here. Over here, I don't have to do anything because it's a straight line. I don't have to do anything here because it's a straight line. But I am, to make this curve that kind of dips down, I am going to pull this handle in towards it, and you can see it makes that little ridge just like the other side that bends down. And where this bows out, I'll just pull that handle in and right back into the point, make that straight. So I'll scroll up again. This time I'll drag this to make this little kind of bowl shape here. It probably works out a little better curve here, and then I'm finishing off with this S curve. And I'm kind of just dragging that handle kind of to go in. Now it's not going to be perfect yet. I'm going to have to work on that a little. But I'll drag this anchor point back down into the point so I finish off that straight line. And now for my editing, I'm going to use my direct selection tool. And I'll click here, and I can tell with this dip in that my handle is probably a little too long. So I'm going to pull that handle in, pull this handle out, and that's following that part of the path really well. And then I'll pull this handle in to kind of follow that S curve there. So that follows pretty well. Same thing over here. Now, if you're trying to get perfection in terms of how symmetrical it is, this wouldn't be the way to do it. You'd be better off chopping this thing, and after you get one side perfect, chopping it in half and then flipping it together. But for now, we're just trying to get used to working with the handles as best we can. So I'll pull this handle in to get that dip. This one I still have a little gray showing here, so I'll pull this handle out. And sometimes it takes a little working with it. This handle I'll shorten a little bit because I have a little dip there, but that looks pretty good. Like I said, it's probably not perfect in terms of symmetry, and as I work down, that looks pretty good. So I'm done with my glass. I'll do a Command 0 and fit everything in the page. So there's my glass, and I'll try to do the B real quick as well without making another video. I'll finish off the B. I'll put that right right in view there, and I'll do the same thing. I'm going to start here and just put anchor points where there's a change of direction. Now for here, I'm going to put an anchor point where this straight line kind of ends before it starts to curve, so that I get a straight line segment. Then I'm going to actually just put one extra point kind of in between to help control that curve. And now down here, I could have an extra one. I'm not sure what I'll do yet, but I have another straight line segment. And again, I don't need to put one along here. That'll be a curve. And I'm just going to have points kind of on the inside and outside of these little fins that are coming out of the B. And again, everything will be straight line segments, and no matter where I start, I'm going to take my convert tool and just start grabbing. And again, if you don't get right on the line, you'll get that message. If you don't get right on the point. And whichever one you start with, I'll bend the one in, or you could bend the other one out. Maybe I'll do the bottom one. That's kind of, I'm following this bottom line here. And now the other side I have to flip around. And I could do that pretty well with one handle. So one handle on these points are pretty enough to do that. Straight line segment I'll leave alone. I'll go to the next anchor point and I'll just kind of pull on it. And I get a pretty good curve from that. That follows the path pretty well. And I should do the same thing down here. And I have a little dip in here, so I'll drag on this and make that into a curve, follow that a little bit. I don't think I have to do anything with this one. It looks like it's following pretty well. And I'm not going to drag on this one. I'm going to go all the way over, and I'll scroll a little bit so I have some room here for my handles. And I'm going to drag and get the bottom arch of that B, or that fin. There's the bottom arch. And again, I'm following. And you can see when I pull the handle, I'm kind of following this direction. That handle should be following like it's almost going to continue going in that direction. And then I'll take the other handle for the forward part of that path and kind of bend it in. And that I'm able to bend that pretty well. So, and then this is just repetition. Get the bottom part, flip it to get the top part, just like when we did the leave. Drag it to get the little belly on the bottom part, and then flip it to get the top, and then that's actually pretty good. I could go back and tweak it. If I wanted to do the inner parts, they're almost like the way I did this. I would almost do this with 5 points. I would click 1 to get the straight line segments first, put an extra one in here for the curve, and then finish off with 1 and then the straight line segments. And then all I should have to do is just convert this 1 point. Should be enough to get that little inner part of the B. And depending where I have it, I may have to move it around. I could take my direct selection tool and tweak that a little bit and shorten the handles, but you get the idea. I'm not even going to finish this off right now.